All right, we are live at the Does God Exist Roundtable After Party, and I've got Randolf Richardson, BrainBug, Dean Meadows, and one half of Divine Disbelief. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
Good.
Actually, I guess a good chance to talk to Dean tonight.
If we look behind Divine Disbelief, we actually have the other half of Divine, so we got both of them here. We could use some more. So anyone watching, we could use some more Christians on this broadcast. I'm
hurting right now already. I know. And I'm already feeling the pain, and nobody said a word yet.
I'm going to message Joel and Larry and see if we can get you some reinforcements.
I just wanted to say, Dean, if you feel like you're in the lion's den, don't worry. We're all pretty cool cats here.
Yeah. Well, no, I've talked with Nathaniel, Ethan, and you before. I don't know that I've ever talked to Brian.
No,
you've spoken with me.
I'm gonna be modestly skeptical of Brian until he proves another. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry, I don't remember where we've spoken before. Where have we spoken before?
We spoke on a Zoom chat one time where you and Larry talked a bunch about epistemology.
Oh, Jonathon Sheffield, welcome.
I remember you now. Okay.
And by the way, I would like to say that I have changed glasses since. These are my new Harry Potter glasses to make me look even more smarter than I'm actually not.
Well, I appreciate it.
So, Dean,
Chef, what's going on, my man?
Not much. Thanks for throwing me on here all of a sudden. Yeah, it's been a long day for me, so thanks for having me on here.
Oh, hey, thanks for joining us. What did you guys think? I don't want everyone to hammer Dean at once, you know.
Well, Ethan, I have to tell you
as well.
I have to tell you, Ethan. I've seen you dialogue. I remember your first debate with Joel Sedecase, I think is his name.
Yes, that's Joel.
I thought that between that conversation and this conversation, you have grown dramatically in your ability to talk about these subjects.
Thank you.
So I am very impressed by your progress, no doubt.
Thanks, Dean. But I have a long way to go if I'm going to keep up with you. One day,
it didn't take much to keep up with me.
No. One day I'll be able to go toe to toe with you.
Well, you just did. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks. DD, did you want to? I know you had limited time. Did you want to jump in?
Sure. Hi, Dean.
What's going on, Nathaniel?
Nothing. Susan's back there.
Hi, Susan.
He says hi, Susan. She waves. Also, Randolph says hi, and so does everybody else. Also, Jonathon says hi. I don't know who that is. Anyways, hi, Dean. How's it going, bud? What's it like to still be wrong about the resurrection?
Well, I mean, hey, here's the thing. If you want to set up another debate about it, I'm more than happy to do it.
And I'm not going to beat you in another debate regarding the resurrection.
Okay.
I've already done it twice.
There's no way this side of Hades or heaven that you got the better in me in that debate.
Well, you can say that, but neither of those places exist, and therefore your argument is invalid.
Well, I figured that you would say something like that, so it's okay. But if you want to set up again, I'll be your huckleberry any day of the week.
Do not. He's not on your side. You talked about eyewitnesses to the resurrection. Please name them.
Right. Okay. So which gospel do you want me to start with?
Well, the gospels are anonymous third-person sources written decades after the events. So I'm talking about first-person accounts that actually said, I saw Jesus after he died.
That Jesus after he died? Well,
yeah,
Paul would be one of them.
Cool. So Paul, who never actually met Jesus while he was alive.
What does that have to do with whether or not he saw him after he died?
No, I'm just pointing it out. Go ahead. Because, I mean, it could have been anybody, right? If Paul never met him, he just meets some random guy in the road, and the guy's like, I'm Jesus.
So you don't think that Paul had any idea of who Jesus was prior to his death?
I mean,
given his status,
it's not like it was
status as a...
No, I'm just saying. if it was like somebody like Obama walking around right now, I'd know who he is.
Right.
But you talk about like Obama like 13
Right.
years ago, anywhere outside of Chicago,
Well,
people might
how
not
much
know
of
who he is.
How much of Paul's testimony? So, do you?
This is a side point that I thought was just funny.
No, it is. It is relevant.
But also,
it
the
is
only
relevant
person in the
because
New
if
Testament
you
that
take,
says, I saw Jesus was Paul.
okay, well, do you take how much of Acts do you take into account? How much of Galatians do you take into account?
Galatians written by
How much
Paul.
of 1 Corinthians 15 do you take into account?
These are all
of those
that's
things-
third person.
Do what?
That's third person. It's not first person saying, I saw Jesus alive after he was dead.
Does
Who wrote
someone
First
have to
Corinthians?
say? Does someone have to say in testimony? Does a testimony of what something of what
You're
happened
talking about
have to
eyewitness
be a first
testimony?
person?
Yes. You
It
talk
has to
about
be a first
eyewitness
person who's
testimony.
Hang on,
not-
we're talking
By
over each other.
definition, it's
One at
first
a
person.
This is just what we do, Ethan.
Okay,
No,
all right.
by definition, is first person testimony eyewitness testimony.
Sure. Yeah.
How can third person testimony be eyewitness testimony?
Okay. So here's what you can do. I want to say it. I said Paul is one.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay.
The person who again,
do you accept the idea that Paul was someone who claimed as a first person witness to see Jesus?
Mhm. Yeah, I would accept that Paul had an experience and he thought he saw Jesus. Sure.
Okay.
Both in corporeal form as well as physical form. For sure. Or spiritual form. Sure.
Okay. So
Who else you got?
okay. So as far as people who claimed first person accounts that said I saw Jesus, off the top of my head, I don't know of any others. I do have early oral creeds that would suggest that date 5 years. I've got at least 2 of those.
Yeah.
And then you have the gospel sources. So
Yeah, the gospel.
I would actually do what?
Who the gospel's written by?
I don't know that it matters who they were written by.
Well, it kind of does, because where was the Gospel of Mark even written?
Okay, why does it matter about where the Gospel of Mark was written?
This is cool because I haven't talked about this stuff in months, and Susan
That's
can
fine.
tell you that. And I am like, man, I remember why I like this so much. If the Gospel of Mark was written somewhere besides Palestine,
Okay.
which I could actually contend that it was, geographical locations by themselves, then how likely is it that a person went from Palestine that was actually a first-person eyewitness to the resurrection of Jesus, and then went and wrote in a third person in a language they didn't know?
Okay, no, I see your point there. And I think that that's actually a fair point with regards to the origin of where the document came from. So I've actually never been asked that question as far as where was Mark written. I've never been asked that. I can't claim to say that I know where it was written. Jonathon may be able to have something on that, but as far as I'm concerned, I'd be honest with you. I've just assumed that those documents have been written in or around Palestine, John, probably in Patmos.
I would real quick
Tradition.
before I would like to get Jonathan's input, since he's never been on this channel before. But real quick, I would like to welcome both Kenneth and Oz from the Atheist Roundtable. I'm sorry, Dean. I wasn't trying to surround you by atheists. I swear.
Guys,
Yeah, he
guys,
was. Yes, he
guys,
was.
guys,
Secret ambush.
guys, the obvious answer to where Mark was written was at Mark's house. I think we all know that that's the answer.
Of course, the answer is we don't actually know, but we can actually we can state with fair, I think, fair confidence that it was in Palestine.
Listen, I have minimal facts suggesting that it was at Mark's house. So I'm sticking with that.
I am not.
Because there are minimal
I'm not.
facts suggesting that Mark was written at Mark's place.
So Dean, if we don't actually have anybody that says first person I saw Jesus, then why do you keep bringing up the eyewitness accounts?
Right, because I would say that the creedal sources would suggest that, and I would say that the Gospels are sources that would attribute those accounts to being the people that those instances in the Gospels in which people see them.
Okay. Do you mean the irreconcilably contradictory accounts of where Jesus was?
Once again, I don't think that you have to, and I've said this before.
Yes, I do, because that makes them unreliable.
Geez, you don't have to have complete line for line congruency between documents to establish a historical core. You know
How
that.
far is Emmaus from Jerusalem?
I've got no idea.
It's a little bit of a walk. How far is Galilee from Jerusalem?
I don't know.
It's a walkier of a walk.
Walkier
Right.
of a walk. How long is a walkier of a walk?
Days.
Okay.
Multiple days in the desert.
But
right?
would you agree with the core premise that you don't have to have
I do want
line for line congruency to establish a historical event took place? Yes or no?
Sure. No, that's
Okay,
fair.
thank you.
But
I appreciate that.
I also don't deal with contradictions, as if I could use those sources as actual sources to say
Do you
these
think
are
that Nero burnt Rome?
the people right.
Do you think Nero burnt Rome?
As a
Like, did he burn it?
a fire of 60 as a way to try to consolidate power, even though he would go on to be murdered or commit suicide anyways. I think it's possible a Reichstag thing happened. Why not?
So you think it did happen? Do you think it's more probable than not that Nero burnt Rome? Yes or no?
Yeah, why not?
Have you ever looked at the sources behind the burning of Rome? They
I
contradict
have.
one another.
time you guys out
So
real quick, 'cause
so you do operate on contradictory sources to establish a
No, I
historical
don't, because we're talking about a god rising from the dead as opposed to Rome burning in the year 60.
All right. Time out. I do want to make sure I get everyone in
Still history. Still dealing with old historical sources.
conversation. So time out, Dean.
Yeah,
Jonathan, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I think I see a lot of new faces. I don't think I've interacted before, but I would like to say hello to everybody.
What are your thoughts?
I've kind of approached the subject from probably maybe similar but different perspectives. Regarding documents, and I sort of led with this in my discussion with Delahunty, but when we're talking about the formation of a text that's published in the ancient world, we're talking, regarding a book or a title published, there's nothing supernatural about that. I think we would all agree that human hands are involved in writing and publishing a book, and a title has to be published to get into areas where, in the case of the Gospels, they come into possession of physical churches that are all over the ancient world at that time. And what we know about a lot of those churches is who they're associated with. So when we talk about the construction of a church in the sense of a body of believers, that requires organization and administration to help orchestrate that. And in the case of when we talk about Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, you're talking about these people coming into possession of these texts. So those people who come into possession of physical texts would obviously demonstrate knowledge of where they got it from. I don't think anyone here would say that the book just magically appeared on the doorstep. They came into physical possession, and so those people would have knowledge of where those books came from. Just like we have on the history of the Homeric epics, we know where it was organized. Cicero tells us, it was organized by Pisistratus, who was the archon of Athens at the time. We know that it was put forth in the festivals. We know at Alexandria, at the Library of Alexandria, they did their first critical edition of the Homeric epics. So when we talk about the Gospels, we're talking about documents that came into possession of physical churches all over the ancient world, in Rome, Alexandria, North Africa, churches who were associated with the apostles. So those people that came into possession of the text would have knowledge of where they got those documents from. Would anyone disagree with that notion? We're not talking about anything supernatural, but we're talking about documents that were put into people's hands physically. So there was a physical transfer of where these documents come from. And on that basis, they would have knowledge of where they got those documents from. Would that be a incorrect assertion?
I do think that it's an assertion that I don't know if it can be made for these documents because a person may not know, especially in the case of Mark, who wrote it, where it was written.
Well,
they can be told something, but that doesn't mean that that's where it was. I mean,
correct.
most people think it's Palestine, but we can make a strong case that it wasn't.
But
just
now,
so you guys know, hang on. Just so you know, a Divine Disbelief is indicating he's got to go in just a little over 5 minutes.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I don't want to try to cut you off.
So, you know, the question on a historical document, you know, comes down to historical testimony. So, once again, we have not just an individual instance of testimony, but we have common history throughout. Lucretius only has one citation from Cicero, contemporary citation on the nature of things. And there's no doubt from any historian that he wrote the work. But in the work of the Gospel of Mark, not only we can tell you where it was compiled, because we have testimony from Irenaeus, and once again, his church, which is part of that administration, received those books as well. We have Papias. That's another contemporary testimony. But I think what's important to note is there is no document out there from the ancient world that identifies the Gospel of Mark. I mean, Tertullian in Gaul, Papias and Heraclius, Clement of Alexandria, the court historian Eusebius, the Maniturian fragment. They all identify Mark as the author with that gospel. Now, if you can identify another suspect from an actual documentation, not theories that have been invented within the last 200 years, can you trace that document to another author? Someone had to write it, and someone had to put it in all those churches. Mark, who was, we have documentation, he was a disciple of Peter, was associated with that church. And we have documentation from Eusebius that said that Peter authorized it to be read in his churches. He was there in Rome. And this is testimony not only coming out from Eusebius and his histories, but Papias, it comes out from Irenaeus, it comes out from Jerome. So if you can identify another author with actual documentation, not speculation, who wrote it, someone had to write it and someone had to get into his churches. So why are we applying a standard for the Gospel of Mark, whereas every other document published in the ancient world, we're using the same historical technique to establish who wrote it? We only have one contemporary citation for Lucretius. But when we have multiple contemporary citations for the Gospel of Mark, we throw off that evidence. Why would I not look at anything? Why would I not look at that as biased information? Because we don't do that with any other ancient document.
Okay, well, I do have to go. But I should state before I go, and again, appreciate this, that I don't actually take much of what Irenaeus or Papias wrote as actual anything other than forgeries, mostly because we can tell from their writings, especially when we think about something like Polycarp, that they didn't actually meet or speak to John or to Paul. And so I mean, outside of like maybe Ignatius's letter to the Magnesians, I certainly don't take Irenaeus's heresies, which is where we get most of what you just mentioned from, letter to Polycarp, still up in the air and things like that. I mean, but Polycarp actually mentions First Clement and things like that. These are simply names that were given at that time.
But how does everyone come up with the same name? The problem is
they didn't. Here's the thing: they didn't. Look at Stephen. What did Stephen call the books? What did Stephen, the martyr, what did he call them? By name.
Yeah, but
Well, no, that's a question, because Stephen, you're talking about the first martyr of Jesus, the person who had access and quoted these books. What did he call them, these texts? Who did he say they were written by?
Yeah, but
well, no. Who did he say? Who did he say they were written by?
Are you referencing the martyrdom of Stephen in Acts?
No, I'm referencing Stephen and his writings and his sayings that we know. Who did Stephen say that these texts were written by? Who had access to them and had them?
Yeah, but the Church of Rome has access to these books. They came in possession with them. The Church of Antioch came in.
He didn't.
Well, but that doesn't
he
mean
never mentioned them by Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John for a reason.
But Papias did. You can't make an argument from silence just because they don't say something. Remember, the Christians were under persecution. They were an underground movement.
No, that's a myth. No, that is a myth that I don't have time to get into.
So Pliny's letter to Trajan.
No, Pliny mentioning the fact that he happened to meet some. He actually said he never actually met any Christians. That he never actually did any of this. And what he said was that they were willing to give up their religion and stuff like that.
Well, no,
there was no Rome sanctioned persecution except for in the 300s, and that went away after 13 years.
No, if you read the letter, letter specifically saying that they were assembling themselves illegally. It was against the law to. Christianity was not a state-recognized religion. So when Pliny issued an edict in Bithynia forbidding the Christians from assembling together, because that's what they were doing, and they were doing inside their homes. Because remember, Christians weren't allowed to worship publicly at the temples, and that's why they were doing it in his home. So he produced an edict. I mean, you got to read the letter.
I've read all of this. I know what it says.
In my debate with Dr. Carrier, he did not deny this. He said
Dr. Carrier is the opposite of a scholar.
But he's a historian. He's an actual historian.
I take about 1% of what he says seriously.
But he has an official. He has I mean, we discussed that point, and I mean, what documentation are you showing?
He's also a sexual predator.
I mean, I'm just saying this is documentation.
I know what it is, but there was no Rome or Roman kingdom wide persecution of saying persecute the Christians from actual Rome.
Yes, it does.
No, except for 13 years, except for one time, 13 years.
No, well, yeah, Diocletian, but
Diocletian never actually said
Nero persecuted them in 65.
No, he didn't. The only time you ever got that was from Tacitus, and we know that Tacitus made that shit up.
He made it up based on.
Yes, he did, because we actually have the Roman wars and things like that exist from when the people actually talked about and mentioned the Roman fire of 60 in great detail, and they don't mention any of that nonsense.
Well, Tacitus, he's
an unreliable source.
I mean, he's an actual historian for the Roman Empire. Clement's first letter describes the Neronian persecutions that had recently happened. So we have documentation of what actually occurred.
Except from people that actually lived in Rome. That's the thing. People actually documented.
Tacitus had documents that he's reporting of. What do you think the annals are about?
Okay, I gotta go. I'm not trying to leave. I enjoy this conversation. I haven't had these conversations in like months. And so I hope we get to talk about this again, because I don't take much of anything that Papias and Irenaeus say.
No, I know, but they were in the second century, so they would know.
I know, yeah, and so was Polycarp. I know. But I would enjoy this further. And Dean, I'm sorry we didn't get to talk further, man. We will, I'm certain, in the future. Right now, though, I have to go. Ethan, thank you so much for having me. It's Brian, Randolph, Kenneth. We didn't get it. Kenneth, apparently you have like the best facial expressions.
It's the only face I got.
It was nice meeting you, Divine. What's your real name? Or
how dare you attempt to have me dox myself? It's Nathaniel, by the way.
Okay, no, it's nice meeting you, Nathaniel. I only see Divine Disbelief on the header there. So
yeah, we're also on Twitter. You can follow us there as well.
Okay, I'll definitely connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
And real quick, Divine, everyone else on here right now, just so you know, I quickly added all your links, YouTube and Twitter, to the description of the video. So if you want to check any of these great people out, go to the description of the video and you can
Check
find
him out. You were on his channel. Is Brian above me right now? Is that
Yes,
You're
Okay.
fingering Brian. Yes.
All right, and I'm trying to get to the man.
love the name too, Brian.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, by the way, BrainBug, I did get that flyer fixed, so the space is removed, so no more copyright issues.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. I was just a little lost because my history is pretty weak. The Romans, I've never read, Erroneous or I don't know, Pupienus or any of those guys. It's all, I don't know. It's very interesting to me to be able to just sit back and kind of be a passive observer of people who are much more knowledgeable on this subject than I am. So I was in a happy place.
Well,
I'm
thank
right
you.
there
Ken.
with you.
BrainBug, haven't heard much from you.
Oh, yeah, I was wanting to know if Dean would be interested in going back to some of the stuff he was. We started going down like the Kalam route with
Yes.
Vancouver and whatnot.
Now that my jets have cooled, I can go ahead and attempt to answer some questions. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I'm. It's fine. Anyway, so the claim that scientifically we say that everything has to have a beginning. I'm just because all matter is made up of atoms, and we don't have any indication that atoms can just be made whole cloth. So it's really kind of counterintuitive to this to what we understand from science as to how atoms form, and we really don't have any concrete evidence to back the claim that we say that they came from something, that they were created. Can you support that?
No, I see your point. Now my point is that whatever begins to exist has a cause. That's the premise. That's the first premise. Now,
Even if we need to get that premise down. I don't know if I follow that.
No, I'm trying to pare it down for you.
Okay.
I'm trying to answer your question.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
referencing it to the first premise of the Kalam.
Mhm.
So as far as we know, and you can tell me if it's different. If it's different, then I'll be more than happy to reassess the first premise, the Kalam, whatever it is. It seems to me that, and you tell me if you think that this is a good track to trace down, that if atoms are within the universe and the universe had a beginning, we could say that atoms in some sense began to exist.
So that would be if I said the universe had a beginning, but I don't know if I'm making that claim.
I'm simply saying, while we may not know how they form within our universe, right? If the universe began to exist and the universe has within it atoms, then in some sense, atoms began to exist.
Or atoms came into the universe from some external source.
Yeah, sure. If you would say that the universe is an open system.
I'm with you, Dean.
Right.
But in the exact same sense of it, this is like if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bicycle kind of a thing. And this is
I see Brian's point. I'm not disputing Brian's point that we don't know how atoms form within the universe.
Right.
And I would even say that there could be a discussion made, an argument made for the universe being an open system. There might be some external source that has.
Isn't that your claim though, that there's an external source? You're putting an identity to it. You're saying that external source is God, whereas I'm saying maybe there is an external source, but we can't. I don't see any reason to put a identity to it.
I think that's plausible. Sure. I don't have a problem with what you've said about. Now I think, and once again, I don't know that. Let me think. So, yeah, I don't have a issue with anything that you've said so far with regards to atoms. I mean, I don't know what the difficulty would be with what you've said.
No. I mean, that's yeah. It seems like the first premise is kind of null. Then, if we can accept that, it could be this, but it could be.
Yeah, it could. Now, I would say that it could be an external source in the universe. Is
another universe would be the most probable. I mean, because we know that universes exist, right? So
we know that a universe exists, right? I don't know that we have a. I don't know that, and once again, I'm open to it. I don't know that you have a. I mean, do we have a solid case that there's? I mean, is there any empirical data that there are multiple universes that exist that could give rise?
No, I think that's all in hypothetical state right now, as far as theories go on that, as far as multiverse. But a universe is something that we can demonstrate, though, is more so where I'm leaning.
Do we know that a universe exists? Yeah, because we live in one.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I do believe that we do live in a universe. Correct.
Right.
I'm with you there.
So,
I guess help me link it, Brian. Where are you saying that this is problematic for the Kalam? Now, I'm agreeing with you that it's possible that the universe is open, but I think that the data would suggest that it's closed.
I don't agree with that. When you're the atoms again, we don't have any source that or any kind of testing or anything that indicates that atoms had a beginning. I mean, I don't think that follows. So to say that everything we have a beginning or everything has a beginning when really when we break things down to the atomic level, nothing had a beginning. Nothing had a demonstrable beginning.
So you're saying that nothing had a beginning?
As far as what we can demonstrate, no, we can demonstrate that things are that matter is made up of atoms, and those atoms beyond that, where they came from, whether they began or whether they've always been eternal, we don't have any information.
Right. So then I guess I would appeal, and I don't know how much credit you would post in this, and that's okay. I don't mind having the discussion. But do you think that there are any philosophical issues with the idea that an actual infinite could exist?
Philosophical issues? No, I'm talking specifically about your claim that it was scientific. Philosophical,
no.
You can go any direction you want with that. I don't have any claim towards that. But when you say it's scientific, I have to come in and say, well, no, once we get down to the atomic level, there's no data to back up what you're claiming.
But you would follow that if the universe, and maybe we're either I'm talking past you or we're just beating a dead horse. I don't know. But it seems like you agreed with me that if the universe began to exist, then in some sense atoms also had to begin.
If the universe began to exist, but
right. So if I could show, if we could follow, and this is my question to you, not saying that I'm going to make a complete robust attempt at this, but if I could show that the universe, the evidence stacks more towards the universe having a beginning than not having a beginning, would you then reevaluate the claim about the atoms? So
yeah, I'm not sure what you would present, though. I mean, you can
right. So if I guess what I'm getting at is if I presented an argument that would suggest that the universe began to exist, would that cause you to say, okay, well, if the universe began to exist, then in some sense atoms began to exist?
Then we could go there.
That's all I want to know. I'm not saying that I'm going to make a huge attempt. I just want to know where you are on that.
No, I'm with you there. If we got back to saying, okay, the current state that the universe is in began at this point, then I would say, okay, so atoms came into existence within this universe at that point. Whether they, a god made them or they came in from the previous universe or what have you, we could explore that from there. But first, we'd have to get to the idea that the universe had a beginning. The point at which we go back to the initial start of the cosmic expansion, we'd have to get back to say that yes, this is confirmed to be when time, space, matter, when everything began. But we don't really have that. We can only go back to where they started expanding.
So would you take a inductive argument?
Can you elaborate?
So let me ask you this: even if I can't point to a single time frame, a time reference, I can't say, well, 20.5 billion years ago, this is when, everything took place, and we know this because of the following reasons. What if I made an inductive argument that said, hey, things seem to break down past Planck time, so the inductive argument would be something like, given the evidence we have, the best explanation, or the inference to the best explanation, is that the universe probably had a beginning.
If you had evidence that pointed to that, then yeah, but I don't know that you do.
Okay. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily have to show the specific time on a timeline that the universe began to exist.
Right.
I would just have to make a good inductive argument and say, hey, we might not know where this finite point is in the past, but the inference to the best explanation is that it did have a beginning. You would be okay with that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If we could, I want to try and get everyone involved here. Oz, did you have
real quick? I want to ask Ethan, how long are you going to go?
I only have just a few minutes left. I'm watching my other stream starts at 9. So
Gotcha.
I'm kind of here until the people join the other stream.
So real quick, if you guys want to continue the conversation after we get off of here, just hit me up on Facebook, send me your name, and we'll set up a Zoom link and we can talk. I'd be more than happy to do that.
I could give Kenneth admin rights to this, and he can keep the stream going.
Well, I've got to go pick up my wife from a friend's house in 20 minutes. So
I'm ready to pass it off to someone else. Good talk.
Good questions, Brian. Really good questions. I enjoyed them. At least you didn't try and railroad me like some people.
I'm nice. I don't do that.
We'll be nameless.
You still there? Are you there, Oz?
I'm here. What's going on, everybody?
Welcome to the channel.
I don't know that I've ever met Oz. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't complain, and even if I could, it wouldn't do me any good.
And that's why I think it was in the chat. I was like, somebody asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm doing awesome, but I'll try to get better.
Nice. That's solid.
No, I won't really jump in and start a whole other conversation right now because I know Ethan's getting ready for another feed. But I will say I appreciate the conversation. About this. I guess my hang up in this entire conversation, especially we're talking about the historicity of the Christ and the Passion Week and all that, is regardless of who claims they saw what as far as a risen Jesus. Those claims to me are really mute until we have somebody or some evidence that we actually know that a 3-dead-old body had breath and regenerated, breathing regenerated. The heart starts pumping, the body starts to recover. I have an issue with that because we don't actually have an account of an actual body coming back to life. We just have people that supposedly saw a risen body. But there was nobody actually saw the process of a body coming alive.
Gotcha. That is totally. I totally thought you were going Kalam there, so my mind had to go like, well, all right, switch back. If I referenced you a book privately, would you read it?
Oh, I read. So Dean, I was a Christian for a better part of my life. It was just 3 years ago that I walked away from faith and God and everything. So if you send me a book, I read both sides of the argument all the time.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Right.
Guys,
I'll reference you that book. Go ahead.
I gotta take off here in a second. Can I just
Me too.
take over for 1 second and ask one question of the Christians in the room?
Yes, all two of us will attempt to answer.
I just wanted to ask you guys, do you guys ever find yourself thinking about like if an all-powerful God sincerely wanted to have a personal relationship with his human creation, would this be the best way to go about doing it? Through the resurrection and the books and all of the, and I mean, do you guys ever find yourself asking yourself why didn't he, do better?
So, anyways, I'll pass on the last comment about doing better. So I'll be frank with you, Kenneth. I'm currently reading 2 books by J.L. Schellenberg, who is pretty much the foremost scholar on divine hiddenness, the divine hiddenness argument. And I'm reading his dialogue with Paul Mosier in Contemporary Debates in Philosophy of Religion. And I have to tell you, I don't think that the problem of evil is the most convincing argument against God. I think it is divine hiddenness. So in a macro sense, I would say that I'm currently doing that right now in reading Schellenberger's work. I think it's a formidable argument, to be frank. Have I gotten through all of Schellenberger's work to say whether I think his case is good to go, or have I tried to necessarily poke holes in what I'm reading right now? No, I'm just trying to gather the information, try to dissect the information, and once again, I hate to use the word frank again, and I don't even want to say I would be honest, because it's like, well, if I'm telling you I'm being honest now, am I lying earlier? Right. But if Schellenberger makes a compelling case, I'll give up Christianity.
Can I hold you to that, Dean?
I give it up. Have I ever wondered, could God do it a different way, or why did he do it this way? Sure. I think that I would say that I've asked that before. Maybe not recently, but I've done it before. So,
Right. Where I want to give everyone just an opportunity to talk about their channels real quick, because I have to jet. So starting with Randolph, where can everyone check you out, and what do you got going on?
Okay, so there's the Canadian Atheists at www.canadianatheists.ca. We're a national organization here that advocates for atheism and for atheists. We're working to counter vilification of atheists and to normalize atheism in society here and abroad. We're so you can find out more there. I'm also teaming up with Neil, a 604 atheist. The two of us are going to host a Canadian call-in program for atheists and religious people, and anybody else who wants to cover any kind of interesting topics. And the name of that program is True North Talk, which also has a website at truenorthtalk.ca. There's a link to the YouTube channel from that website as well. So right now, there's just a few videos covering the renovations for the studio as we are progressing with that. So we're hoping to have that up and running in a few months. I may be in a debate on whether God exists on Modern Day Debate coming up on October 1st, if all the planning goes through well.
Are you allowed to say who?
Sorry?
Are you allowed to say with who?
I think it might be somebody named Smoky Saint or Saint Smoky. I'm not clear on the name. So,
okay.
But I'll be teamed up with
Dumpster Fire,
and there'll be another fellow teamed up with him. So we're looking forward to that.
It sounds like the name of a guy who raps about weed.
Oh, that's
perfectly okay here in Canada. Weed is legal here. Thank you very much. I appreciate being here, Ethan. Thank you for having me on here.
Ethan, that's a new one. I've never heard of that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Okay, BrainBug.
He's been called worse, Randolph, I promise.
Yes, I have.
I try to get people's names right. That's why I apologize profusely for that.
Oh, no, you're good.
He'll take it.
BrainBug.
Oh yeah, I'm BrainBug. That's my channel. I'm Brian, and I do videos mostly about bugs and stuff. I do some mythology videos about monsters and stuff. I got one this Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tomorrow I am going to be on David Worley's podcast, if you watch that show. And I am going to also be on Critical Questions or with Critical Cripples. So that's a fun little game that we play together. Yep. Randolph knows what I'm talking about. And other than that, yeah, just look for more bug content. Of course, next Tuesday, I will be hosting the Perspective with Ethan. And next Wednesday, I believe, along with Mama Atheist, I am going to be sitting down to interview Gutsick Gibbon, Erica from Gutsick Gibbon. So lots of fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Yeah, present. Yeah, so
He's not a YouTuber.
Not a YouTuber. I've got a YouTube channel though, and a video.
It's okay.
A couple videos up. One more that's in production. I'm excited about the direction that's going, and gonna be. I'm really excited for the True North talk, and I love Brian's channel. I'm not giving everyone else shout outs. The Atheist Roundtable is awesome. Dean's great. Jonathan, I'm not as familiar with your work, but I'm sure it's fantastic.
He does cartoons and they're amazing.
I'll check it out. I'm doing Neil 604 Atheist show on Veterans Day to do the old deconversion story. I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, just trying to be around and useful.
Did anybody hear Kenneth's Canadian out right there?
Yes.
I'm preparing for Neil's show and all the things we'll talk about.
All right. Real quick, I have to run through these last three as quickly as possible because my stream starts in 9 minutes and my guests are waiting. So, Dean, you're next.
The Daily Apologist on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. We're there.
Sweet. All right, Oz.
What's up, Ethan? Ethan. Thanks for having me on, and love you, Randolph. Ours is
Love you too, Oz.
Ours is very simple. If you go to tart.live, the link tree is there. YouTube, everything you need if you want to be on the show, it is all there. And we have 3 big shows this weekend, so come check us out, hang out, and that's all, folks.
Awesome. And then Mr. Sheffield.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me on, Ethan. I really appreciate it, and Dean as well. I know we do a lot of talking offline, and it was great actually meeting everyone as well. My name is Jonathon Sheffield. Born and raised in the Anglican Communion. Over the last 4 years, created a new genre in Christian apologetics by putting them to animation. So my channel actually takes apologetic argument. I try to break down the subject matter into fun cartoon creations of the arguments. I've had the opportunity to debate Dr. Richard Carrier on a couple of occasions, Matt Dillahunty, Ehrman, and a number of other scholars out there. And, my approach really is to basically open up and offer an intellectual argument for Christianity and have a good discussion with the other side to really explain the problems I have or the reasons why I believe.
Just real
Jonathan,
quick.
if you like, feel free to contact me on Twitter, Randolph828. I'll be happy to get on your program at some time in October or later.
Oh, no, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everyone for joining. I have to fly out. Make sure like and subscribe, all the good stuff. Thanks for joining. If you want to check out what I'm doing next, go to youtube.com/YFNA news, because in 7 minutes, I'll be interviewing a police officer on the topic of defunding the police. So good night, everyone. And special thanks to Dean Meadows.
Thanks.